I totally understand what your difficulties as an English learner are. A few years ago, I decided that I wanted to speak English
fluently and confidently.
At the time, the clearest path forward for me was, to simply join a school, like a lot of you have done. But that made me quickly realize about a problem. And this problem was that every time I had to speak in front of others, I got paralyzed with fear. I had no confidence in my skills. And so, long story short, I ended up quitting after just a few classes. Happily, things changed when I tried again the year later. This second time around, I did a lot better because I had
trained myself with purpose.
The results were incredible. I grew in confidence, I was learning and not forgetting what I was learning, and best of all, I felt really proud of my increasing language skills. One of my all-time favorite quotes is, "What you can be, you must be." This means that if you can become that English speaker that you dream of being, and by can, I mean you only can if you believe that you can. If you believe that you can do it, then it means you have that ability to do it. If you don't believe that you can do it, then you are right. Self-belief is very important. So, if you can become the English speaker that you want to be, you must try becoming that person. If you don't do it, then you're going to suffer the pain of not trying, which is worse than the pain of the effort that it takes for you to become that person. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to tell you my story of how I got over this paralyzing fear of speaking English and how I got fluent and confident as an English speaker. But one thing that I want you to keep in mind is that this video isn't really about my story as much as it's about how you can see yourself in my story and what you can take away so that you can continue improving yourself. Before I get to that though, if you're new around here, there's something that I want to say to you, and that is that in this channel, I help you, a committed English learner, to develop the tools and mindset that you need to become a fluent and confident English speaker. I'm going to encourage you, inspire you, and show you how you can level up your skills so that you can succeed in your life and career. I want you to connect with the world in English and leave your mark in it. If that sounds like something that you like to do, well, congrats, I love that. So what you need to do right now is subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell so that you get notified when I upload a new video, and lastly, don't forget to smash that like button as well. So I'll take you back to the year 2010. I was 20 years old at the time, and this is when I said to myself, okay, I want to speak English fluently. I had already been developing a curiosity for English, but it wasn't until 2010, maybe 2011, that I got really serious about making meaningful progress with the language. And like any good story, you don't get to your ultimate goal without first really fighting for it and going through some hard times. Anything that's worth having requires an effort. An effort brings with itself a level of discomfort, some level of pain. But hey, this is good. You know the saying, no pain, no gain? Well, that doesn't just apply to people that work out. That is a universal truth that is applicable to all walks of life. The reality behind it is that where there's pain, there's growth. If you avoid pain, you avoid growth. You stay, as people say, in your comfort zone. So my friend, as I'm telling you my story, think about your story, the one that you are still writing today, and think about what the monster or the villain is in your story. Think about it. Even leave a comment. What is the biggest challenge between you right now and your goal of speaking English fluently? Go ahead and write that down in the comment section below, because I'm looking forward to reading about your thoughts on that question. So my monsters were the same ones that a lot of you are facing right now. So you have the paralyzing fear of speaking English, the lack of confidence, the fear of making mistakes, and this self-doubt, thinking that I'm not good enough, I'm not good for this, or the thoughts of, my pronunciation sucks, my grammar is terrible. I experienced every one of those feelings. And maybe you want to ask, Max, did you go to the United States and that's how you got fluent? Or did you spend a lot of money on courses and institutes and that's how you got better? The answer is no and no. I did not do any of those things. So my story from a few years back when I started learning English seriously is that I enrolled in a university program that I thought would match my increasing like and interest for English. And that was translation. So there I was, learning English and getting trained to become a translator. How did I do? I failed. And I failed miserably. I did really bad. So you see, I was in this class where everyone spoke English so freaking well. And I was just barely getting, a grasp of some basic grammar patterns, some basic vocabulary and pronunciation. So I was learning how to walk in the language while everyone there was already flying. And so you see what the problem is there. I was comparing myself to these people. You have to keep in mind that you might be comparing your 7th step in the language with someone else's 800th step in English. Anyway, so I remember being laughed at for my bad English, and that part of the story I told in more detail in this video. So in this video, you're gonna find a story similar to this one. It contains a lot more detail, so I recommend, if you're interested, go ahead and watch that video next. So ultimately, at this point in, when I was in translation school and learning English and everything, the environment overall proved to be too much for me, and I ended up quitting. If this was a movie, this is the worst part of the movie for the main character. Just the whole thing feels like a terrible experience. English as any sort of, career path feels like a terrible idea. So I'm done. I'm closing this chapter of my life. It's over. Except it wasn't. Now I can clearly understand what happened. The thing is, it's rarely ever, or even, it's never a straight line from where you are to where you want to go, or who you are right now and who you want to become. There's that transformation in the middle, and no transformation happens without suffering, the effects of that transformation. You just don't close that gap easily. So that rocky start was painful, but again, it was necessary, and it was a learning experience that allowed me to mature in many different ways. Now, looking back, what would have happened had I actually quit English for good? What would have happened had I done that? What would have happened is that I would be now looking back at that time of my life, and everything would have just been a collection of bad memories. But because I refused to be defeated, I can now look back and feel really proud about that younger version of myself who was getting ready to become that next improved version of myself, and that has led to me sitting here making this video, talking to you, and hopefully being a guide for you, someone that can help you along your journey to become a fluent and confident English speaker. So allow me a quick second here as I quickly rehydrate myself. I've been talking for quite a while now, and let's circle back to the initial question of how I overcame the paralyzing fear of speaking English. Now, I won't get into the details of what I did to learn grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, because what might be useful for me might be useless for you. So what we need to do is to zoom out a little bit of the specifics of how I personally did it and talk more about the general principles. If we talk about the general principles, you are going to see the benefits. So how do you go from insecure to secure? How do you become a more secure person in that second or third language that English is? Think about what makes you insecure. You can come up with many ideas. You might even say it has to do with some psychological trait or whatever. And while that may play a role, ultimately what's happening is that you're not confident about your skills in English. So the thing for you to take away right now is that your confidence comes from the validation of your skills. A lot of people think things like, okay, I gotta do some sort of like mental exercise to become more confident, to convince myself that I'm confident, that I'm not this very shy, introverted person. Well, no, you don't really fix it that way. You fix it by actually getting better at the thing that you're trying to do, whether that's English, whether that's a sport, anything really. You have fear because failure is right there, very close. And we're social animals, and we don't want to, be perceived as not competent, make a lot of mistakes. It's the same as, when you were a kid and you were learning how to ride a bike. The first time that you got on that bike without the training wheels, without those helping wheels on the sides of the back wheel, you knew that the chances of you falling off the bike or falling to the ground were, pretty high. Maybe 70% chance that you would fall and get hurt. Because of that, your fear was justified. But what happened after a few days that you have been practicing on your bike and now you got just a lot better? Your fear went away because you knew that you had just gotten better on the bike, and now the chances of you falling to the ground and getting hurt were a lot lower. Maybe a 95% chance that you would be okay, you wouldn't fall, and a 5% chance that you would fall. So your lack of fear in that case was justified, and it is the same thing with your confidence in your English skills. When you get better at the skills that are involved in speaking English, you know that the chances of you making mistakes on, getting embarrassed or whatnot are a lot lower than when you were just starting. So once again, your confidence comes from the validation of your skills. Now, the million-dollar question is, how do you improve your skills? So at a very basic level, what you need is to have a strong desire. Without a strong desire, then none of what I'm going to tell you is actually going to be useful for you. People that don't have a strong desire or a strong purpose don't get far into their English speaking fluency journey because it's not possible. Maybe they would get some, benefit from some hack or some trick, but really if your goal is really advancing your career in life thanks to English, then you need a strong desire, because a strong desire is what energizes your focus. It's your focus what's going to allow you to figure out a lot of aspects of English, how to improve your grammar, your pronunciation, your vocabulary, and a lot of different aspects that are involved in speaking English fluently. If you have this focus, you're going to observe other people, how they're doing it, people that are more advanced or more experienced English speakers than you. You're going to learn from them. You might even ask them questions about how they actually learned to speak English fluently, and you're going to take some suggestions. But first, you are going to customize those other things other people might be doing, or things that I might suggest. You're going to customize it to your own needs and style. So there you have it. In this video, I told you my story of how I got over the paralyzing fear of speaking English. But really, this wasn't really about my story. It was more about how you could see yourself in my story and what you can take away to continue improving yourself. And now I have a challenge for you. Well, I've already challenged you to do something, which is leave a comment down in the comment section below. Remember, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to speaking English fluently? But I have another one here for you, and that is to watch the 4 videos that follow this video. So I'll put together a playlist with this video and then the other 4 videos that I want you to watch next. So go ahead and watch the videos in that playlist. It's linked down in the description section of this video actually, and maybe over here. I don't know if I can actually, if not, find the link in the description section of this video. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for making it until this point, and I'll see you next time. Okay, take care.